Again, today at River's Edge Homestead, we're going to go attempt to do the next patch of our garden. Okay, not going to talk too much about how I'm going to do that because I did that in the previous ones, but what I am going to talk a little bit before I get started is rototillers. Now, as you can see, I know of 6 different styles of rototillers. Number one, the smallest, is one you'll find on a end of a multi-tool, Troy-Bilt or Ryobi, whatever. Quite a few manufacturers make them. They're basically a weed whacker, whether it's gas or battery, that you can put a rototiller attachment on. The next size up you'll find is a front tine rototiller. Basically, the tines, which are this part here, kicking with my foot, is what turns. The motor's on top of it, the tines are in front of you, and the handle is behind. So that'd be the second type. The third type of rototiller you'll get into is a rear tine. Again, a little bit step up, a little bit bigger, usually more horsepower, can handle more of a job. And then we get into what I have here, which is a self-powered pullable or towable. Now, this one was designed in the 70s, probably went behind a little garden tractor with a 3-point hitch on it. It was made by a company, and you probably can't see this too well, but Brittany Hardy, sorry. They're still in business today. They still make towable self-powered rototillers. Now, the next step up from that is you can get a rototiller that goes on a 3-point hitch that is tractor driven or PTO driven. On the back of a tractor is a PTO, which is this shaft right here. That PTO, when engaged, will spin. The tractor drives it, and in turn will spin the rototiller. Again, it will be a bigger unit. They usually start at about 4 feet and carry on from there. They won't have a motor on it. They'll be driven with a shaft off of that PTO. And the sixth one that I know of is what I've seen come out recently is a rototiller that goes on the front of a skid steer. I believe they're hydraulically driven. I've never really looked at them because they're not applicable to me. Now, when you're getting into homesteading, of course, you're going to want a garden, and of course, you're going to have to make that garden if it isn't already there, and you're going to have to choose what rototiller is best for me. Now, I'm going to tell you the front tines that with the motor on top is pretty much a light duty or a lighter duty rototiller. The going one that I've seen is that I've seen lots of is rear tine rototillers. You can rent them. I've seen them rented, and I have personally rented one, and they are neat. The ones you rent, because they're hydraulic driven. They have the motor, but they're activated with hydraulics. Heavy unit. If you're going to do a lot of rototilling, you're going to be tired at the end of the day. Um, Rear tiners is what I see a lot on Kijiji. A rototiller is one thing, if you're going to homestead, that I would probably make the investment to buy. You're going to be able to find them used on Kijiji if you're not in a hurry. Going price I see is usually around $500 for a good used rear tine rototiller. And you say $500, well, you rent a rear tine, it's 100 to 125 a day. I like to maybe rototiller twice in a year, spring and fall, if time permits. So the payback on a used one is 2 years. Now, rototillers typically are used a couple days a year. So in this case, this guy is probably built in 1974. I think when I Googled it, it could use a motor rebuild. It burns a bit of oil, but it runs and it starts. Now, if you think about it, this rototiller, the hours on it are probably minimal. If it's a homestead, home use rototiller, you're probably going to use it a couple days a year, and then it gets stored. These are 4-stroke lawnmower motors or whatever, just a pretty basic little motor. They last forever if you keep them. They run, they do okay. Change the oil, change the plug, and they're pretty much bulletproof, as you can see from this unit. So the point of this exercise is what rototiller is in your shed. And my recommendation, if you have a little garden tractor, and you have a several $1,000s to find a rear tine pull along, and you have a major plot, it might be worth the investment. Otherwise, rear tine used off Kijiji, $500. As long as it runs and does the job, you're happy. One thing I will make a note, with this rototiller, when it's running, this is the engage. Pull it back and forth. Let's see if I got it right. And that's what engage or disengages the tines. The tines at time will get into something, wrap something around it, and you're going to have to get into it and pull it out. And safety wise, when you're playing with a rototiller, please, please, please turn it off. Um, don't rely on the disengage to protect your hands. If that thing slips, which mine does do on times, your hands are gone. The rototillers make no differentiation between fingers, hands, wrists, or soil. So for safety reasons, if you're going to work on a rototiller to clean it out, make sure that you've taken the extra time and you've turned the motor off, or if it's PTO driven, you've shut the tractor off. The thing is in an energy dead state so that you can't get hurt. Nothing worse than a homesteader getting hurt and all of a sudden your dreams have changed because you've severed a finger, a hand, or you've broken your wrist. Okay? Anyway, another afternoon at River's Edge, and just my little 2 cents worth on rototillers.